Our bodies are electrical. We are energetic human beings. So I find with microcurrent, it's just speaking the body's language to reactivate. And it stimulates so many things inside that normally I love touching people, but microcurrent goes so much deeper. And so what it does on the aesthetic side is it actually re-educates the muscles of the face. This one is on a sinusoidal waveform, which is really more like in nature, more like our body's natural wave patterns where it goes up and down, up and down. So it changes based on the state of what your body is in. When you come and get a treatment for a facial, it's like you're giving yourself self-love. Not only are you helping your skin, but there's something intrinsically that happens because we're in such a busy world to honor yourself and take care of yourself from the inside out. And that's the biggest thing that I can be able to give to my clients is peace and balance. And through microcurrent and my technologies, I really want our bodies and our minds to be in a state of homeostasis.
Hi, Gamma Seekers. My name is Brooke, and I am so excited to introduce you to Mia Oddo. She's actually my personal skincare esthetician, and as picky as I am about who I use and what modalities I open my body and skin up to, I have been using Mia's services for the last year, and I am so impressed with how she has been helping my inflammation, some of my skin tone come back into peace so gently. She's introduced me to some new and old tech that I wish I had in my toolbox sooner. So I'm excited to introduce you to Mia, and we're going to drive this conversation into areas of skincare that I'm sure most of you haven't heard about, because as involved as I am, what Mia talks about is still very new to me. And I've made some investments into the tech that she uses. So I stand behind this not just as like a passive witness to what she's doing. As an experimenter and as a researcher, I'm excited to introduce you to her. So Mia, let's start at the very beginning. I know a lot about your story personally as a friend, which I appreciate, but can you describe to my audience about what got you into skincare? How did you get started?
Yeah, so it's so great to be here, Brooke. Thank you for having me. So my name is Mia Oddo. I am a medical esthetician of Mia Spa in Boynton Beach. It's been 20 years now. And what actually brought me into skincare was actually a solution to pain. At the time, I was married and my ex-husband was taking 10 oxycodone a day. He had a very severe back pain. He had multiple herniated discs. He also had bulging discs, and he was told he'd have to have back surgery. So at the time, I really wanted to get him off of all pharmaceutical. He was taking 10 a day. And so I started to seek out holistic solutions, and I came across microcurrent. And microcurrent really was our silver lining and saving grace. So after several treatments, his pain went from like a 10 to a 3, and he started to have full range of motion again. And I was amazed by what it did for him. And so I started to do a lot of research on how I could help continue his plan of care and be able to get him to avoid back surgery. And so I'm really grateful that through that, it actually led to a whole new career in business. And I started to actually sell microcurrent and provide treatments on people. And then that's how the spa was born.
Now, you're in skincare, but you got there by back pain. Can you kind of connect the dots for people, like how you got to one place and then the other, and a little bit about this microcurrent and this magical frequency that has changing my life too?
Yeah, I mean, microcurrent is so amazing because it's not only used for pain, but it is also used for beauty. So initially, I came in on the pain side. And people that are understanding or knowledgeable of a TENS unit, which is a fancy word for transcutaneous electroneurostimulation, aka microcurrent, was a solution for pain management. And so when I was doing these demonstrations as a distributor, the people from the company said, Mia, why don't you get your license to touch skin so you can open up your own practice and do this as a modality? So that's where I went back to school, got my license to touch skin. And then as I dug a little deeper, I saw there was a fun side of microcurrent, which is the beauty side. So from the beauty side, which is where I really shine too as an esthetician, it actually helps to re-educate the muscles of the face because it creates ATP energy. And that's short for adenine triphosphate. And that's really what actually helps to build collagen and elastin.
How would you define frequency skincare and how it differs from how other people have experienced a traditional skincare treatment.
Wow. So our bodies are electrical. We are energetic human beings. So I find with microcurrent, it's just speaking the body's language to reactivate. And it stimulates so many things inside that normally I love touching people, but microcurrent is so much deeper. And so what it does on the aesthetic side is it actually re-educates the muscles of the face. So the adenine triphosphate is basically the life of the cell. So it actually is creating these reactions. It's actually used originally for Bell's palsy to re-educate the muscles and make them even. So that's how microcurrent on the aesthetic side kind of got its claim to fame. And so it not only does that, but it also stimulates healthy lymphatics as well. And something that I know you're very passionate about too, it also helps fascia release. So we carry a lot of inflammation a lot of times in the body. And so when you use microcurrent, it actually helps to move through the lymphatics. So the face becomes less puffy, but then the muscles are getting stimulated. And then it's basically known as a non-invasive way to lift the face.
Yeah. And if we can just, fascia therapist to frequency tech expert, I have noticed that there is a gap within the fascia field about how we look at loose fascia. And I think that the microcurrent and all of the case studies that I've read, and I'd love to talk to you about your most successful client and talk to speak to different kind of pain spots that the same machine is working with. And I have it right here. I've showed it to my members quite a bit. I probably pull it out every other week. I'm just reminding you. But when the fascia tissue has become loose and stretched out, when there's been a lot of weight gain and weight loss, or there's been some serious damage, I haven't found anything that has created change as fast. And I'm always telling people we can innervate the nerves by creating friction. So the old school Chinese medicine protocols of creating stimulation and friction and then adding poultices to reinvigorate the cells. But can you talk to people so we said microcurrent, but this is the microcurrent machine that she's referring to. There's actually different models from this company, Avaza, but we both use the best RSI. There's a pro model. It's pretty intense if you don't really get into it, but this only has 4 buttons. You can kind of trust a family member with it if you walk away for a minute. Can we just mention to people how this is very different than some of the devices that they've seen some of the Instagram influencers use? They're dragging up the face. This kind of gets boxed in to a lot of other tech, and it's so different.
So I think the first and foremost with this machine, it is an FDA approved device. It is classified as a class 2 medical device to treat acute and chronic pain, which really falls under a pretty big umbrella. So that's first and foremost. The second is that it actually releases endorphins and serotonin. And that really is what allows the body to go into a state of homeostasis. And it does so by a very unique waveform. Most of the basic TENS units that are out there, or microcurrent machines, are on a square waveform where they just kind of feel like they're being zapped, very needly. And yes. And you have to keep turning it up in order for the body to feel it. This one is on a sinusoidal waveform, which is really more like in nature, more like our body's natural wave patterns, where it goes up and down, up and down. So it changes based on the state of what your body is in. So I really think that's a huge difference in terms of the impact, in terms of the immediate release that it provides, especially when it comes to inflammation.
Can you talk to me about some of your best cases in the last, you've been working with this tech for a while. Tell me about some of the good news that has come with something as simple as this. There's not even a topical treatment that you're adding to it. So you're just enhancing the electrical charge with precision with this versus the electrodes that you can plug into the same device. Can you just kind of speak to, I've read about so many of these case studies, but I would love to hear about your personal experiences with them.
Well, I think another big difference too, unlike a lot of the traditional microcurrent machines or TENS units that are out there, is this does not require a conductor gel. And that's a big difference too. So I think that's really unique in itself as well. But from the aesthetic standpoint, I have seen some amazing physical changes on a more holistic side. Most of my clients do not want to get Botox or fillers, and they want to just look great and feel great. And so I had a client, he's one of my long-standing clients. He's 75 years old, but he had a girlfriend that was half his age, almost like 40 years old. So when he came to me, he's like, yeah, I need to look more youthful so that I can not look so old. And his like skin literally changed like night and day. And it's like literally took 20 years off of his face. So I wish I had it before and after, but I can definitely send it to you. It's a night and day for him. His name is Jim. He was very, very happy with the microcurrent, and it's ongoing. It's cumulative as well. So even when people get the treatment, I always tell people it's not over. It's continuing to work in your body 48 hours post treatment. So people feel better ongoing, even on more so the next day. They see even more changes and differences in their body and skin. So aesthetically, that's been huge. One of the biggest changes that I've seen, and I think you saw as well, was scar clearing. And that's what makes this really unique too, because people want to see a change. They, of course, they feel it, but they want to also see a change. So there is a very specific setting, which is a relaxed setting, and also it's called relax, and also RSI that actually can actually change physically internal scarring as well as external scarring. So that was the biggest change that I have seen, is actually changing scars and healing scars.
I have been trying to describe to people how it works to heal scars, and I'm going to try it on you, and then maybe you can give me your version of it. So it's like, you know how when we get sliced, and you and I have both seen some crazy surgery scars where it's like the tubing, caulking tubing that's just like caked in there, because there's almost no nerve, there's almost like nothing but collagen. It's almost like the scar heals in this like big fat collagen line. And then when I add the RSI, it's almost like it's throwing that low grade current to the two nerve fibers on the outside. And it's like trying to get them to reconnect. And it's like when the nerves can refire, that's when the tissues will like start to move and oscillate again. And then that, it's like between the electrical input, the added injury, and then the nerves learning to fire, where it's the cells can start to deconstruct and reconstruct where they kind of got stagnant in the past. That's been my way of explaining it. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, no, I like it. And this what's amazing about this technology is that it can treat all different types of scars, right? Internal scars, post-surgical scars, even keloid. Like kind of what you were saying, that really big, dense scars. And what I explain to my clients is that, the skin is the largest organ. So when you have a scar, it's like blocking that channel, right, of healing. So usually when someone has inflammation, the first thing I ask them is, do they have a scar? So I can clear the scar. So I kind of describe the scar like when you think of a tree and you have roots underneath the tree and they're all kind of coming up like this. When you work the microcurrent, it actually makes them become linear. So it can actually connect and drag, and you can feel the difference actually. Oh, when you go over the scar, there's resistance to it. So as you're working over the scar, you'll actually notice it will eventually clear and have a clearer pathway. And then that healing can begin when you actually clear the scar.
The hardest part, I think, for me to like talk to, and I'm sure you feel the same difficulty, is the level of awareness the machine brings to your inner state. Because it's different than massage. It's different than just being palpated. You can feel the sheaths of fascia and how they're supposed to be gliding, and then where they're not, and then where the dull spots are. I really feel like it's kind of magic to get the feedback of everything feels good. There feels like there's integrity within the tissues. Everything's gliding. And then you hit a spot and your body's like, and it's almost like the layers that are supposed to be gliding, you can electrically feel and physically feel. And then sometimes the current will stop working and you're almost like, wow, okay, I'm literally numb here. Let's just hang out while these nerves turn back online. And that whole peaceful process of waiting.
Yes. And that's the beauty. Like you mentioned, the feedback is the biofeedback. It's actually communicating with the brain and your body. And so, like you said, it's very intuitive in that you can actually feel and reaffirm where you feel that pain. It's like, wow. And it'll actually light up. The machine actually lights up when it's an area where it says, wait a second, I want you to stop right here. And that's when you know you're on biofeedback. All the lights light up. And then once you have the body has reached a homeostasis, it'll actually ring out. So it's a very intuitive to reaffirm what you're feeling, to see it visually on the machine, to feel it, the drag, the resistance, or what we also refer to as sticks, right?
Yeah.
So that's really, just to kind of add to your point, is exactly what it's doing, the biofeedback.
I recently saw a video of someone had a raw piece of steak and they like rubbed their hand over it and the muscle spazzed. Have you seen that one floating around?
No, I haven't seen that one.
The muscle collapsed in and collapsed out. And I was like, man, this is such a good example of how fascia shows you it's collapsible. And based on the hydration and the dehydration of the tissues and how palpable those tissues are from being collapsing, that's our experience of mobility and spring loadedness. But the machine makes you feel it.
It does, right? And it reminds me of that one protocol, which is we call little wings, where you put it on your vagus nerve, right? Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden your whole shoulder lifts up and it lifts down and it lifts up. And then before you know it, it's a complete release, right? That's one of my favorite areas to put the machine on.
I'm with you. So what are the three, if you have three at-home tools or frequency-based devices that you believe are worth investing in? If someone's watching this and they care about their health, they care about their beauty, but they're turned off by Botox, they're turned off by the chemical route, what would be your regimen that you'd recommend for people?
I love frequencies. So I have several different technologies that utilize frequencies. My first and the one that I've still used today, which has been 20 years now that I've been using the microcurrent, is microcurrent. And that again is great for beauty as well as for pain and a more natural, holistic approach. And then also radio frequency. Radio frequency is also really great, and that is really good too for skin tightening. And then I also really love light, LED, which is another frequency using light frequencies. And that's really good for fine lines and wrinkles as well as anti-aging and hyperpigmentation. So a lot of times when I see clients, I really try to customize their treatments so that they can have the best results. Those are my top three.
Wow. Okay. So in the wellness market right now, there's a lot of devices out there with a lot of different price points. And the reason why I go to you is because I trust your research so much. I know that you understand frequency tech, not only as a rep and an expert, but as someone who's applying it to people, which I feel like that gets lost in the field a little bit. Like when a sales rep is highly trained in one area, but they actually haven't used the tool on people and watched how that tool works on different kinds of people. So what you bring to the table, I think is very special. Can you just talk to people about the fact that there are all of these like kind of lower grade wellness devices out there being touted as one thing, but it doesn't mean particularly what the frequency is?
Yeah, so that's a really great point, because a lot of people will look on Amazon and they'll just see, LED for like $50 and they'll think it's the same thing, but it's not. And a lot of the things that people have to be aware of is, for example, with LED is the depth of light, the nanometers. How deep does it penetrate? Can it go to the deepest layers of the skin? And most of them do not. And so that's something, when you look at what you're trying to accomplish, if you want something that is more medical, right, then you go to someone that is either, a medical esthetician or a doctor's office, because they do have the machines that are only sold to spas or doctor's offices, which is very different than, one that they can get anywhere in China or something like that. All of the machines that I use are things that I personally have used on myself and seen dramatic results in, but also is backed by science. And I think that's really important too, is, to look at the clinical studies and the research behind the machines too.
Yeah. And I'm going to include in the show notes here how people can contact you, because even if you're nowhere near Boynton Beach, Florida, to have a sit down and a consult with Mia, she brings a lot of education to, if you are looking to make a purchase, sitting down with her and getting her advice on what would be worth your money. At this point, I'm upset I bought my air purifier without your input. Like I got one gifted for Christmas and I was like, wow, this is a good one. And I was like, I know it's not as good as the one Mia has.
Ah,
So there's, people that are looking to make the investment into this. There's so much competition in the market. And I think a lot of it is kind of scammy. So someone like you who's been in the wellness tech industry for 25 years, it's nice for people to know that they have a contact that they could reach out to.
And I want to say too, if you are not local to me, the microcurrent machine, and I can't forget to also mention, I also utilize PMF. which is pulse electromagnetic frequencies. And so any of my clients, when they come, they can have access to that as well. But I can rent them out. So if somebody wants to try it from a distance, they can actually rent it out for a week or a month and then really see how it works for them. And then if they love it, then they can apply that amount of the rental toward the cost of the purchase. So I just wanted to make sure that people, they can have that option too.
Wow, that is such a cool thing to offer.
Yeah.
Other than the microcurrent, what other tools and options, like, because I've got the microcurrent off of you, but like, let's just say if I was ready to invest in something else, what would be like your next at-home tool? I mean, I go to see you once a month, but
for saying that. So I mentioned the microcurrent and just briefly mentioned the PMF. So the difference between the microcurrent, right, which there is an option where there's a Y bar, which I know you love too. I love too, which allows you to kind of treat different areas and, spot treat, if you will. And then they all have the pads, right? The pads, which are hands-free. But then you also have the PMF, which is completely hands-free. And so I like that because if you're going to sleep, right, sometimes the most restorative state is when we're sleeping or we don't get enough sleep. So the pulse electromagnetic frequency mat that I have is actually used by a lot of athletes or people that want to, again, heal their bodies naturally, reduce inflammation. It also helps the circulatory system, the vascular system. And there's different settings where people can just, by a push of a button, if they want to help go sleep, there's a setting for that and a frequency for that. If they want to help reduce inflammation where they don't have to do anything and be hands-free and get that treatment while they're sleeping, there's that as well. And then they have one that's for vitality that actually gives just that, a more vital energy and zest. So a lot of people will use that before they go work out or just to help them wake up in the morning. So those are some of the other things that I use myself personally too, which I have in my bed as well, and when I use for my clients too. So I definitely would recommend looking into PMF as well, which is very well studied and used by a lot of the top athletes too, to help them recover faster.
Yeah. I'm such a big fan of grounding. Anytime somebody asks me I'm like, PEMF is good. If you're living in an apartment and you're not grounded every day, there's advantages, but it's like, I don't know, let's just like go lay outside for an hour.
Right. Just walk in the grass or go to the beach. I love that.
I mean, that's really what the earth is. It's pulsing an electromagnetic frequency that's going to make us feel relaxed. But I feel you that I see that there's a need for it. And I get asked about PEMF about once a week now. How would you, because you also do topicals. And so if somebody's watching this and she's like, whoa, we can do frequency on our face, but like, what about the extractions? How do you recommend people cycling or layering frequencies, LED, organic topicals without really like overdoing it? Like, what would be I know everybody's different, so it's kind of a complex question.
Yeah, there's so many, and again, like you said, technologies, products out there. I think one of the things that is very useful too for treating like acne is galvanic frequency, which I do use as well. If people have congestion in the skin, it actually helps to reduce inflammation. It helps to clean out the pores. And a lot of people can see those actually, but used very frequently by estheticians. So that actually helps just to kind of overall the texture of the skin. And now, with different skincare products, I think it's important to have really good serums as well. It's important to cleanse, it's important to moisturize, but if people want to actually see the change in the skin, it's really good to get a really good serum, whether it's hyaluronic acid, vitamin C, glutathione, which is one of the most potent antioxidants for the skin as well. So a lot of people refer to glutathione as like the fountain of youth. So I incorporate that too, which I have a really amazing Korean skincare that I use that has that too.
Awesome. And then galvanic frequencies, could you just speak to that? I'm sure most people have not heard of that word.
It's like a little wand. And when you turn it on, you don't necessarily feel it, but you hear it. So it kind of has a little zapping. And then when you make that connection to the skin, it has like this little orange light that comes in and also has ozone, but a very, very low amount of ozone, which is very good and healthy for the skin. If you use ozone in the right way, in small levels, it's very safe. And so that's actually what's used on the skin. It also helps for product penetration. So if you're using the serums and then you're putting a galvanic wand on your skin and then you just kind of go over it in only just a few minutes, on the face, will see a big difference in the luminosity of the skin, but also in the texture. And it also helps to close pores. So that's another sign of aging, is when we have enlarged pores. So I love that tool for that reason as well.
Keep seeing large pores as part of the fascia getting looser, and the more I do inversion training, the more I feel like all of us should be trying to get upside down because of how our organs are placed within the fascia. Just total side note. I want to steer it back to the what was the word you used? Galvanic?
Galvanic.
Galvanic. Okay. That is different than the argon orange lights that people are using on their face, right? Have you
That
seen
is
those?
different. I don't think I've seen that. I don't think I've seen that. I gotta look.
There's some like very cheap little $80 wands that people are like, oh, it's the natural facelift, and I'm like, man, I don't buy it. I just don't. I don't think that's what. So I just wanted to speak on that. If somebody was like, oh yeah, I've seen that, it's like, nope, not the same thing. But that would be something people would have to travel to a professional like you to get, right? That's not something that we could do at home. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And then to your point too, like anytime you have a blackhead or a pimple, that's what's going to create that enlarged pore. So people don't, get the extractions or be able to have something to close it up. That's why we use it very commonly in the spa, because that's what we're trying to get out, so we can close that pore. And we do that with exfoliation, extractions, and then using galvanic at the end.
So just to like create some cohesion, like I see you once a month minimum. I would like to see you at least every 3 weeks. And that puts me in with my sebum in my skin. So I see you every 28 days within my cycle. And as we've been doing that, we've been acknowledging, bringing more and more awareness to what's showing up naturally on my skin. So both of us have kind of set the intention. We're not here to alter, we're here to enhance what's already there and to create like as little inflammation. And so the way that I proved Mia, like if I was somebody like looking for a new esthetician in another town where there's no Mia, I'm always very interested in how they treat their face, how much makeup they wear, and what's their relationship to organic skincare or non-organic skincare. And then I ask a few questions about frequency. And what I'm really looking for is someone who can speak to an anti-aging look without the harsh chemicals. And you're not like big on chemical peels with me. We do basically a mixture of your microcurrent, your radio. Sometimes you use light frequency. Sometimes you use that little wand that you were talking about that I still tripping over the name.
And microchanneling.
Yeah. So you are layering me with the frequencies that my skin is asking for. And you've taken me through this beautiful route over the last 10 months where I feel more healthy, more vibrant, and my skin is just less inflamed in general. So if I was someone looking for a Mia, those are the questions that I would ask. And it's really about looking at how you treat yourself, because I'm at your mercy on your table. I'm someone who's following similar like principles and thoughts and questions about health and wellness. So if someone, let's just put ourselves in somebody's shoes, that they live in the middle of Kentucky and they would love to see a professional once a month to help them with their skincare goals, what's a way that you would help them proof a new person?
I think that one of the first treatments I did on you, Brooke, too, which I think is one of my most popular treatments too, is dermaplaning. And dermaplaning is a more natural way and deeper way to exfoliate, as opposed to most people thinking a scrub or thinking of a chemical peel. But there's no downtime. And it also removes vellus hair and peach fuzz. And it's really great too. If people do have congestion, it's a nice way of saying acne, that it's going to open up that pore so that I can get in quicker and be able to treat the whole face. So dermaplaning is a really great first step, like a dermaplaning facial, because we want to really be able to exfoliate and get all that dead skin off with no downtime. And that's usually what I start and recommend for my clients when they first see me, just so we can get kind of a clean palette, so to speak.
Yeah. See, like it's really, every person is different. It's really hard to give general advice, isn't it? You got to like see what someone is, working with. But also I feel like my job as a coach is to help bring more awareness to options. And it's when we have a few more options to look at, I think people are more willing to just kind of like stand naked in front of the mirror and say, okay, here I am. Whatever their judgment or their program around that judgment is, it's where do we go from here? How do we work towards what we want? And I think some people, they get really closed off from the mirror because they feel a certain way about it and they feel like the only option is something that's not in alignment. If you could speak to that pain point, someone who wakes up and they have a bad relationship to the mirror, what would be your like words of wisdom to them to fix that?
And I think too, what I'm hearing also is just customization, right? Like being able to get to know, well, what is your skincare concern? How are you living your life? What is your lifestyle? So when I look at someone, I'm asking them holistically to looking at their body and also saying, well, what types of foods do you eat? So sometimes and I always say what you put in shows up in your skin too. So I really just try to get to know my clients first and foremost, like what matters to them, what is their concern, and how are they living their life? And then what tools or technologies or frequencies can I recommend that's going to help bring their body in a state of homeostasis in a more peaceful, balanced way. And I think that, being in the world that we live in, that's what everyone really is striving for, is just to feel self-love and self-care. And that's something that I really enjoy giving to my clients.
Yeah, and you're good at it.
Thank you.
What is your current favorite botanical or frequency serum? Like, what's your favorite mashup right now, just out of curiosity?
My favorite. Well, I am really loving a foam cleanser. I just got those in. I think one of the hardest things that I have with clients sometimes is just cleansing. So I want to like at least get them away from the bars of soap that can be very drying. And I like the foam cleansers because people want to feel like things happening. And so the foam cleansers are really great because all of a sudden they see a clear solution. All of a sudden, then their face is like almost like a white bubbly mask, if you will, although it's not a mask, it's a cleanser. But it feels really good on. So if I can just get somebody to have a really good cleanser so their face can be clean, that would probably be the first step, is finding a really good cleanser. And I really do am falling in love with the cleansers that I use because they're foam cleansers. You don't need water. You just put them right on. So they're more potent in the way that they deliver. And then, of course, a sunblock is very, very important too. And I know there's a lot of sunblocks that are very heavy. And now we want to make sure that we also have the blue rays that are coming from the cell phones and from the computers and things like that, that people are protecting their skin. Of course, even when you're driving, you're still getting the sun as well. And I noticed that too with some of my clients, that they have more hyperpigmentation because the sun is actually hitting them on the left side than the right side. But of course, from the serum standpoint, hyaluronic acid is, of course, one of my favorite because it's 1,000 times more absorbent than water. And that's something that I know for you, hydration is something you came from, at the very beginning. You're like, my skin needs more hydration. So I think just having the even balance of having a really good cleanser, moisturizer, and a really good serum. And I would say hyaluronic acid is definitely one of my favorites.
I've been playing with a salt toner. So I have like 8 ounces of rose water left, and I added 2 tablespoons. This has happened like since the last time I see you in the last month. And I've been spraying it before bed, which feels opposite because I normally would just like oil up before bed. So like after my nighttime shower, I'll do like a nice cleanse. And then I've been adding this magnesium and this salt water. And I've shared it with my members. That's why I'm bothering to mention it. And I wake up in the morning and there's these like little salt crystals all over my face. But man, it's like increasing the tone. And I use the microcurrent before I go to bed. So I'll do the magnesium spray. Then I do the salt spray with rose water, which feels just like a lot less oil to add to my skin, interestingly enough. But then I use the microcurrent on after. And when I wake up in the morning, my skin feels way healthy. Like it produced oils that I needed all night long. I don't know if you're going to like recommend that or not for other, but I've been experimenting with it and it's definitely changing the tone. So I'm excited to see you later and like have you evaluate my skin after 3 weeks.
Oh, I love that.
Explaining it.
And I think what I'm hearing too is that like it's the pH. So you're actually changing the pH of your skin. And that's something that I've also discovered too, is that I actually have an alkaline water machine. And there is a pH of the skin, which is between 4.0 and 5.5, which is considered beauty water. And when you have beauty water, it actually can naturally exfoliate and moisturize your skin. And also for some, it's like a natural version of tightening the skin. 4.0 is considered like the Botox water. So I actually have a challenge now for people that if they just use a 4.0 or 5.5 beauty water, which is amazing that it's just added hydrogen, it will actually change the physical components of your skin as well.
It's fascinating. I've seen some people now experimenting with the hydrogen products, like long term, like 6 months in and like bathing with it, and I see a flushing in their skin that looks very new. Almost like they're going through heavy duty detoxing. Like everything looks very awake and alive. I haven't played with it outside of just like short term, but I'm very excited. Like watching these people do, I'm like, wow, this actually looks like it's creating a significant shift in the blood. Like the underneath pigment, and it's so cool to be around you because you and I both have an eye for color, and like you're super trained at looking at the face. So it's like the colors inside of the skin show you what's happening within the blood. So anytime somebody starts to get really naturally rosy in the cheeks again, I'm always like, oh, there is a lot of circulation happening. The lungs look good. Right. The cells are like moving and flushing. It's cool to see the flush that happens in people, and people get it in a workout, you know, but the concept of drinking a water or having this hydrogen water creating that extra version of movement and flushes.
Yeah, I love that. And I was going to say, if you have a little bottle, spray bottle, bring one empty, and I will give you the beauty water so you can experience it and have it for yourself.
Yeah, I'm with you. When you were saying it, I was like, I need to bring a glass bottle today for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, oh, don't forget to bring that too, because that would be fun.
Here's like just a little quick question. If someone could only change one thing in their skin care routine to have the most impact, what would it be?
Well, first, I think I would ask them, what are they looking to accomplish? Because what one person wants is different from what another person might want. So I think the biggest thing that I find for people is they want to glow. They want that glow. And especially when you see all the celebrities and things, that's the one thing they see is a glow. So I love exfoliants, and then even a really good beauty oil, right? Because that can change. If you just add a really good exfoliant and you have a really good beauty oil, that'll give you this really natural, youthful look of luminosity. So I would say that.
Okay, that's beautiful. I love that answer. Can fascia release and microcurrent improve skin energetics as well as facial sculpting?
I think they work hand in hand, really. I think that it basically does allow for fascia release. It does allow for a lymphatic drainage. And then after you release that, then you can actually go deeper within the tissue itself and the muscle to re-educate it and lift it. So it's like kind of clearing out all the toxins of the skin. And so then that way you can then put in all the good stuff so it can get actual change in the skin.
I want to like speak upon that because I was somebody who was doing face exercises before I met you, and they were frustrating for me because I didn't have symmetry in my muscle usage. And after I came and saw you and I explained to you, like, I want to bring symmetry back, but like I have a little bit of nerve dysfunction here from one thing or another, who knows, head trauma, falling and smashing my face on the ground, playing soccer, whatever. And when you started to work the microcurrent after, I think it was probably the second time, my eyebrow could function again. And I was like, look at me, I can do my face exercise. So I really see a beauty. If someone, you know, decided like, I just got divorced and I really want to reintegrate my glow without, you know, a heavy duty chemicals or facelifts or surgeries. And I see so much of that, like really in our microcurrent down here in South Florida. There's a surgeon on every corner, but yet you exist. And it's like, man, if someone wanted to do face exercises plus what the microcurrent plus, you know, see someone like you once a month, I can speak for the last 10 months that you've made me reverse age. And as good as the face exercises are, and I love recommending them to people, I had damage. And, you know, something as simple as a few sessions with that machine woke the nerve back up. And you're just like, yeah, your electricity, you know, like the electricity got a little damaged. We just had to wake it up. So it's simple for someone like you, but so many people are walking around numb. And here we are sitting on this tech that's been around for 30 years that can just wake it up and then make more use out of the exercises they're doing, you know? Exactly. Make more use out of the serums you're already using. Make more, because now we are open and absorbent and things are, awake and flushed. And I got to tell you, the microcurrent, you know, I got it and I was like, I'm going to work my face every day for sure. I am so distracted by my lymph nodes that I have to remind myself to do my face because the machine has increased my awareness to where the stagnation is. And if I want my face to feel beautiful, I have to make sure that my lymph is treated. So by accident, your tech tools have made me more have made me more into the overall health instead of just the shallow construct of getting the muscles good. And I think that that's a beautiful thing. I was just saying how the machine itself makes us more aware. Here I thought I was going to be so hyper focused on my face, and I'm so into what the machine is telling me that I didn't know was there. I'm so numb here still. Like at the very bottom of my neck, like there's this whole from pressing forward from my posture being like this on a computer. I didn't realize that I was ignoring moving this area here, and then that builds up to the face. So it's the increased awareness that these techs can bring. Instead of depending on them, they can just really open us up to where we can get better.
I love that. And there's so many lymph nodes right there too. So you're really stimulating. And that's what I always say too, with, stimulating all the lymph. When you've got a lot of lymph nodes here, we have lymph nodes in the face and under the arms, all those areas that when you really work, and especially even with massage, the same principle, right? Removing the lymph. So it's a lot easier though sometimes when you can use the machine, right? Because it takes a long time to do that by yourself. And even are you doing it correctly? And then timing is everything, right? I mean, it's nice when you can do it for yourself, but it's also nice when someone can do it for you and you have a machine to help you get there even faster.
What would be your bit of advice if I have some members that wanted to reach out to you? How could they best contact you and just kind of get a consultation of what they're looking for in direction, and maybe how you could even help at a distance?
Yeah, so my website is miaspa.com. Of course, the best way to reach me is by phone, which is 561-95104, or by email, which is Oddo, O, D as in David, D as in David, O, M as in Mary, IA1 at gmail.com.
Perfect. And I really appreciate you continuing to learn. Like the very cool thing about being able to live near you and see you once a month is that you invite me to all these conferences that you go to because you are constantly seeking out the new. Can you just tell me over the last 6 months, what's excited you the most in skincare?
What's excited me the most? Well, my newest product is the actual Korean skincare, which I'm very excited about because I've seen some major changes, and glutathione and exosomes are really a big buzzwords in the beauty industry. So to be able to have that now in my skincare, I'm really seeing rapid change for my clients because I do have to compete with the Botox and the fillers. But it's so important to be able to not only have the technology, but the right post care so people can continue to see the good results in the home. So I've been searching and searching for skincare that can actually create an immediate change, because if people don't see change, then they don't always stick with it. So I'm very excited about my new Korean skincare line.
If someone has had Botox before, what would be your advice to get them to get similar results without going that route anymore? What would be your transition for them?
So I think the two most powerful technologies and modalities that I have is the microcurrent and the microchanneling, which I know we didn't get to talk too much about. The microchanneling is a newer version of derma needling. So derma needling is typically a small pen that has about 10 to 12 needles, and you basically use that on the skin, and then you're inducting serums to go to the deepest layers of the skin to create change from the inside out. Microchanneling is about the size of a quarter with about 30 needles. And sometimes when I say needles, people get a little scared, but they're so micro that you don't even need to use numbing cream because of the way that it's applied. It's a stamping motion. And then it's the same principle in that I use very unique serums to induct in the skin, but they create immediate change where people will see a lift immediately in their skin. And that's what people want to see. So I highly recommend people get a combination of either microcurrent or microchanneling. That is a natural version of, instead of doing Botox or fillers.
Yeah. And I would agree. The microchanneling is pretty intense. Microcurrent's kind of relaxing and feels good.
Yes.
The channeling, I have to kind of breathe.
Well, I do tell people, if they're okay, to take a couple of aspirin or something like that beforehand, and that does help to ease it a little bit more.
I just flood with coconut water. When we're going to do one of those, I'm like, okay, I know how to breathe. We're going to drink some coconut water.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do love what happens to my skin. So, I mean, that's what we always schedule before big filming projects, like a week. It's like, we got to go do the thing.
Exactly.
I would also recommend face exercises. I feel like if with you in face exercises, I'm planning on trying to just reorient what 80 can look like. I know you and I are both on a similar path of really enjoying the graceful aging process and wearing it as good as we can as two women in a very interesting microculture down here. And it doesn't exist everywhere, but the plastic surgery down here is very prevalent. And you know, if you're 25, you're getting Botox. That's like kind of the it seems like the standard
It is.
now.
And it's weird because eventually people keep doing Botox, which actually is botulism. People don't realize it is actually rat poison that you're putting in your skin, and eventually your skin will look distorted. As you see some of the celebrities when they get too much, and then all of a sudden they don't even look like themselves. My clients, they want to just look and feel their best. They know they have to age. They might as well do it gracefully. And they just don't want someone to say, "What did you get done?" They just want to say, "Oh my gosh, you have great skin. What's your secret?"
Let's talk about Botox for a second, because I know it means botulism, and botulism is that cell that can distend a can because it can grow anaerobically. So often it's being syringed in between muscles, and it's an anaerobic bacteria that will keep swollen. And then you have something like radiance. Like, can you kind of speak about the chemicals and why people like you and I are absolutely turned off to taking that route?
I mean, I really am more on the holistic side, so I don't really talk so much about the Botox and fillers because that's just not really, I guess, what I do normally. So I wouldn't really feel comfortable speaking more about it as I am on more of the holistic side.
That's totally fun. It was like a clickbait question anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's fun. It's interesting. I have a lot of girlfriends that have taken it and they're embarrassed to tell me. Like I've walked into rooms before where like the conversation got quiet and then it came out later. And it's like, wow, I don't want to be the woman that talks down about it. I want to be the woman that inspires a different path because it's expensive and it's toxic. So like why would I want it for myself or my friends to take a toxic path that's going to, kill the nerve endings and hurt our blood system. But I see the lure, like the lure of it is right there for $1,000. You can look like you're 30 again.
Right.
And in the meantime, what you're providing, in my opinion, is so much more natural, so much better for people long term, and it's cheaper. You know what I mean? Like you are so beautifully valued in comparison to what else is out there. And I want my girlfriends to feel good, and it's an interesting conversation to have without being divisive or creating a sense of judgment. And it's like, what's the words that we can use to make it feel soft, gentle, and just like another door? Like just another doorway that's open for people to move through it. And if someone has done, but it's nice to know someone like you can create a bridge off of it so that it's this never ending, it doesn't have to be a never ending cycle of continually distending the fascia, and that's how I see it. It's like, man, we're pulling the fat, we're creating looseness, but your tech could heal the looseness and also wake the nerves back up and also, flush and create circulation.
Right.
So
And if people are so set on doing fillers or Botox, people have used microcurrent as a bridge, like you said, to extend that. So if somebody, let's say, gets Botox every, or fillers every 2 months, if they get microcurrent between, then I don't necessarily have to go back as frequently. But when I do some clients, if they have Botox or fillers, they have to wait about 6 weeks before I could actually work on them because it is considered a toxin and microcurrent does move toxins out. So just is something to be aware of as well.
Can you speak about like a client that you've had that has transitioned? I feel like that's maybe like a gentle direction.
I think that, for some people, they haven't always had good experiences, with Botox or fillers. Even my mom, actually, she's having issues right now. When she had the fillers, now her face looks like protruding. Like her cheekbones don't look the same as her eyes. So her eyes look more sunken in. So now she's looking at a more natural way to like even her skin be able to get the collagen and the elastin back through microcurrent, through microchanneling. So now when I'm seeing her, I'm starting to see that her skin is coming back to a more natural state, but still youthful, still, she looks amazing. But I can definitely see that she's like, okay, I see what this is not what my skin I thought was going to look good immediately, but now long term, I need to do something else.
Wow. Thanks for sharing
Yeah.
that. I think like
Yeah.
those are the kind of stories that I feel can start being sprinkled in people's brains. Like there's a way to transition, you know, you got to do a combination of things. It's there. It's not, one is not evil than the other. We are just all moving towards the future together.
Yeah. And I do feel that when you come to get a treatment with microcurrent, it's like mind, body, spirit. So when you kind of go to a doctor's office, they're just putting something in, which is not always pleasurable at all because you can get bruising, right? You can have complications, things like that. But when you come to actually experience, microcurrent, it is actually changing also your mental state. So it's so much more powerful too, because physically we see ourselves in a certain way, but internally, how do we also feel? And that's why I love the microcurrent, because it works on the internal and the external. And that's something that Botox doesn't necessarily do. You can look good, but you maybe not feel good in the inside. And that's what I love about it so much.
Bringing people back to the internal awareness is such a good thing to do. And you have so many different ways that you incorporate that with people because of some of the events that you throw, because of your ability to give massage, because of your ability to speak on tech and frequency, and then also oils and the nourishing oils that you recommend. I'm like just a big fan of you.
Thank you, Brooke.
Yeah, I mean, I used to run, people may not know this, I used to run an organic skincare spa before the health clinic that I ran with my ex-husband. And we had 9 girls there, and I just like loved the infatuation that we all had with the internal. We had a juice bar, and then we had only organic serums and lotions and cleansers. And so there was a lot of conversation around health that happened between, the fluids that you're putting in the body and the fluids that we're putting on the body. But the frequency and those technologies, in my opinion, are like the lightning sauce of actually feeling what the healthy diet and then all of these healthy oils and how they connect in order to create lasting change within the cells and tissues that are always moving. So is there anything that you want to mention that you want to kind of highlight with this before we call it a day here?
Wow. I think the biggest thing really is to honor yourself. And when you come and get a treatment for a facial, it's like you're giving yourself self-love. Not only are you helping your skin, but there's something intrinsically that happens because we're in such a busy world to honor yourself and take care of yourself from the inside out. And that's the biggest thing that I can be able to give to my clients is peace and balance. And through microcurrent and my technologies, I really want our bodies and our minds to be in a state of homeostasis. And that's, I think, the biggest thing that separates me from everyone else. And my touch and my intention when I'm with my clients, they can feel that. And I hope that I get to meet, and see any of you, here in South Florida. And it was just a pleasure and honor to be able to speak with you today, Brooke.
You're such a badass, man. Thanks for taking the pocket of time. And I'm going to see you in like 4 hours. And I need some more serum or some more cleanser. I'm due for upping.
Okay, great.
When you were talking about it, I was like, I've probably been using hard soap when I'm traveling. I'm not taking that with me. Oh no. I'll see you in a little bit. And I'm going to include show notes in here for everybody. And I'll see you in a little bit.